Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of our weekly show, Let's Talk. As you all know that in this show, we cover various sectors and topics, and previously we have been covering education, health, aviation, and a lot more. This week we have decided to talk about banking sectors and how it has been affected due to the ongoing pandemic, which is the COVID-19. And for that matter, we have two very special guests joining us today. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Amjad Al-Lawati, who's the Deputy General Manager for Customer Segments at Bank Muscat. And with him, we have Mr. Ali Mustafa Al-Lawati, who's the Head of Private Banking at NBO. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. It's wonderful to have you on our show personally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. So, Mr. Amjad, I'm going to start with you. We'll be talking about the banking sector in particular. And before we get into the details how COVID-19 affected, different segments, how do you see the effect of COVID-19 on banking sector in general?
Oh, it was a very tough 2 years, and things are unraveling a little bit now, hopefully to the best and to the better. But they were tough 2 years. If I talk about the bank itself, I'm not talking about the impact on its customer. We'll talk about the impact on the bank itself. We had a lot of problems, we had a lot of challenges. So movement was a challenge. So based on that, workforce management was a challenge. A lot of people were not able to get to work. Quarantine, we had to, a lot of people, and unfortunately, got infected. Luckily, most of them, or almost all of them, reported back, alhamdulillah, healthy. But even though at that time, the quarantine times were tough times, for anybody in the bank to balance and to make sure that the necessary team members are available was a challenge. You could never predict who's not going to be there tomorrow for a week or two. We had curfews, and with curfews, there were a lot of parts of the business that we couldn't really run as smooth as we usually do. Let's say call center, for example, and we had to extend the night shifts to 12 and 13 hours, and we had to go, really think out of the box to make the service available all the time. Lockdowns. Our call center was in Rui, still in Rui, and at the beginning of the pandemic, the whole area was under lockdown. So we had to move the call center and work from different places with a center that has 100 agents. That wasn't easy. So yeah, I think mainly the movement, the curfews, the lockdowns really provided a big challenge for a bank to operate. That is, bank is working with people, and sure. Even our customers coming into the branches, because you don't know which branch could have a virus spread, and then we had to shut it down, and we did a lot of those.
Right. Mr. Ali, how did you see the effect of COVID-19 during this period on the banking sector?
I believe the last 2 years have been very challenging, not only for banking, I believe across the globe for most of the sectors. As Amjad said, that operation-wise it was very tough because of the lockdowns and curfews, and we need to run around to take permissions from the government and from the ROPs to move this stuff around. Working from home was another challenge. Banking is and was as a service which is crucial and important.
Right. And
it's critical. No matter what happens, that you should provide, you should be able to withdraw money, you should be able to transfer money. And doing that was probably easy to say, but actually when we did it, it was very challenging and very difficult. Another thing which we faced was to sustain the business. Growing was tough on those days, but at least sustain the business and ensure that we deliver the customer service levels, which is represented by NBO, and keep the image of the brand as well. It wasn't easy. We had to, enhance our online platform as well. And I would like to also thank the government especially the Supreme Court, the Supreme Committee of COVID, and the central bank for allowing us the aid to help the individuals and the SMEs as well. That created another challenge because of the restriction which we have and people moving and people want to defer the loans and all these things. So we were able to enhance our digital platform so the person can actually, through mobile banking, request for deferment if he's eligible for it. Right. And that was very successful and very much appreciated by the customers of NBO.
I'm sure that nobody really saw the intensity of COVID to reach to that level that so many sectors would be shutting down halting their operation. Initially, it was just aviation, and then we saw hospitality, and bit by bit, it just started spreading everywhere that like a sector like banking sector had to go through some challenges.
Well, I think it is, I wouldn't say it was, it is a global pandemic that impacted every single human being on this planet, banks included. As Ali said, the interaction between a bank and customers is a crucial thing. Right. And although there is a lot of digital enhancement in this world, yet a lot of customers, a lot of services still need that human interaction, one-to-one, face-to-face. And luckily that, I'll talk about Bank Muscat here, luckily we have always had these business continuity plans in place. So when I told you call center, we couldn't reach there, we already had a place ready for as business continuity call center that, yes, could not take everybody there, but it at least assured the continuity until we arranged other locations to have the whole thing set up again. Our digital platforms have always been in the forefront of all our planning pre-pandemic era, and I think it really came across as the savior, if I would say, throughout the pandemic period. The number of people onboarding on our digital platforms, the number of transactions that used to happen on the digital platforms skyrocketed. They were phenomenal, really. I remember in a previous interview, I actually did share a few numbers. So we in Bank Muscat updated or upgraded our mobile banking just, I don't know, maybe less than a year before the pandemic. To a whole new platform, an omni-channel experience between internet and mobile at that time. And the number of people, I remember, I still remember the numbers correctly, the number of people we migrated from the old system to the new system was like around 500,000-600,000. Today we have more than 1.2 million. And that all skyrocketed throughout the pandemic era. So, and that created a lot of stress on the system, on the softwares, on the hardware, and it was the real test. We were all really thinking, is it going to handle? Can we really handle all this? And a lot of work was put on making sure the system is robust enough to handle all this extra load at sudden time. And like Ali said, on the back end, we had to be there to add more services to the systems as and when we go. So yeah, like Ali said, the deferment of the installments for the COVID impacted customers had to be done in number of days to be added to the mobile banking. And when you add something to a mobile banking app, you need to go through a process, governance, testing. A lot of that had to happen in number of days, so we could be able to cater to the change during this pandemic period.
It must have been really tough and challenging, right?
Was indeed.
I mean, these are the challenges we're talking about, the banking sector. What about challenges for those who actually secured loan during this period or previous to this period? How did you deal with those challenges, Mr. Ali?
Well, it wasn't easy, to be frank with you, because everybody was under pressure. People had to travel back. Flats got empty. Companies had to reduce workforce or maybe reduce the salary paid to the individuals. So the income went low. People hardly could pay their installments. And as I said, if the government and the CBO has not interfered and with the aid package, it would have been difficult for both the banks and the individuals, as well as the companies, the SMEs. The package which was given and the 12 months deferment of installments for the individuals, I think that helped a lot to sustain the minimum requirement for the life. So people were sitting at home, with minimum spend. Shops were closed, restaurants were closed. Only maybe delivery was there, but and people started focusing on what to spend and what not to spend, because they don't know what will happen the next day. How long will the pandemic stay? And with the banks being beside the customer and the SMEs, I think that helped a lot. I think it was a teamwork between the government and the private sector, especially the banks and other institutions, medical, and I think it went well. It went well. I could say, if the crisis, I think we did a very good job in the country. Of course, some people will be impacted badly. People with no backup plan, or haven't kept some reserve cash for the company or something, definitely would have been impacted. But overall, I think we have done a good job in the country. Yeah.
Mr. Amjad, how did you see the challenges of those who had to pay off their loans?
The banking community, led by the Central Bank of Oman under the directions given by the Supreme Committee, we all worked as a team. So like Ali said, the banking community had actually deferred installments for over a year for a lot of people who were impacted. And that deferment was done without interest as well. So, the bread and butter of any bank is the interest. But in such crisis where the whole nation is under tension, comes the time where you step up and say, I'm doing this for Oman this time. And the banking community did that. The central bank and the banking community, the whole process, the whole deferment, the whole no interest, the whole strengthening the digital platforms and adding services at such time where people were not even able to reach to the office. That showed solidarity, if that word is the right word to use, and that shows that what we Omanis are made of.
Right, and these were the relaxations and challenges that you both just discussed about people who actually secured loans. What about bank itself? What steps were taken by the bank to ensure the ongoing customer care and service? Because I know as a banking sector, that's one of the top priorities, the customer care and the service, and to be available 24/7. So in that matter, what was really done?
So as we just said, it was mainly, we used to, we can't plan things ahead because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it was day by day planning, and changing parts of the plan, making sure in every region some branches are at least available. And if there is more people in a branch that cannot reach there, so you move people in the branches within a region. Making sure your call center is working, if not in Rui, not in Sib, not in Ghubra, but somewhere there are few people working to attend calls. Making sure your networks are working, your ATMs, your CDMs are working fine in case people need cash. And that also is another challenge with movement, the cash replenishment of the machines, with lockdowns, sometimes getting spare parts for machines. That was another challenge. So yes, we as a banking community, I think we were just attending to the issues on the spot, while a lot of people were on quarantine or there was work from home. We did not have that luxury, unfortunately, because a lot of the banking community staff have to be there, especially, and I really salute those who were still in the branches facing customers face to face, despite and knowing how much dangerous that could be at that time.
Right. Right. Initially, nobody knew the intensity, and like you said, like people still had to, have that customer relationship
Yes.
going on. Mr. Ali, do you like to add something? Would you like to add something to what Mr. Amjad said?
I said that there was a lot of back-end work going forward and backward to ensure the customer service is not interrupted. 24-hour, 24/7 call center, ATMs. We have to ensure that the money is there. If there's any issue, the ATM shutdown is there. We have to attend it, no matter where and what are the restrictions, because that's important, for the person to have cash liquidity in his hand when he wants to buy, or access to his account and money when he wants to buy something for the house or something. We had to enhance, the systems. Although the process which Amjad before this question was talking about, it's not easy to do it in a few days or a few weeks, because it has a lot of processes to go live with that small service you want to add to the mobile banking or to the online banking. So even, because we had an issue also of the pandemic that you cannot exchange hands, minimize to exchange things between hands. So, having the facility also in the app where you can transfer the code to the customer, to the one, and he can go and withdraw it from the ATM machine also without having you going and taking the money and giving it to him. So all these were enhanced, in our systems, just to ensure that the customer service is not impacted at all with the restrictions which we have in the country.
Right. Talking to both of you right now, I'm just realizing the amount of pressure there must have been initially when the COVID-19 shock came. Yes. How did you all, people working in the banking sector, take this news initially, like we have to make such major changes? And I'm sure their working hours would have been tremendously long initially to make all these changes to make sure that everything is working well.
Well, yeah, there were tough times. We got used to them, so they're not tough times anymore. Although a lot of what we've improvised at that time is still going on. I remember at the first days of the pandemic, we used to have a 7 p.m. Conference call with the whole retail management, led by our chief retail at that time. And that continued as a daily meeting from 7 p.m. then to 5 p.m. and then again earlier. And we're still doing that, a COVID sort of a update, a COVID-related update until today. So yeah, in 90 minutes I will have to attend that meeting again. And things changed. The whole way we do things have changed. I mean, we used to have all face-to-face meetings. Now going to a meeting face-to-face is a bit weird. It's been 2 years we're sitting behind screens. So yeah, a lot of technologies emerged, a lot of processes changed. In fact, we realized that maybe online meetings are better in some circumstances than even face-to-face meetings. A lot of us still prefer to do online meetings. Yeah. We got used to that a lot. So yeah, the whole dynamics of the way things were happening pre-COVID and then during this pandemic have been different. The banking itself is different now. A lot of people embraced digital. They were afraid of digital. Paying by cards was people still. I was running digital banking at that time, and we used to, think, why would people withdraw cash from an ATM and then go pay at the teller, at the shop? Yeah. But then during the pandemic, we saw that this thing has been, minimizing, and a lot of people are spending more and more using their cards. Okay. The tap was phenomenally growing, and it really skyrocketed during the pandemic, and it became a habit now. So people not even wanting to give their cards to the shop owner or the shopkeeper to tap it. That was something that really picked up in Oman during the pandemic. So as a bank, things changed to us while running the show. As customers using the bank services, their habits also have changed. And I think going forward, a lot of these habits, the good ones, that we have acquired during this 2 years would stay with us, and I don't know, we might call them the positive impact of COVID on us.
I hope so. Mr. Ali, do you agree with Mr. Amjad about the pressure and then the changes that the pressure actually brought to the market?
Yes, definitely, and I said it changed, and I agree with Amjad that it changed a lot of cultural things which we used to do, and behavior. I mean, it's cultural behavior which we used to, or that we were used to do. To using the technology. I mean, I don't remember before the pandemic we used to do Zoom meetings or team meetings and all these meetings and all these applications.
Cool.
So that itself it's a big cultural change, and it helped us because we were having these platforms, but the usage of it was we were struggling for the people. And struggling more when you get a bit older in the age. You tend to be very resistant to any change. The change to you will be a bit difficult. So changing the mindset of the people to do banking through mobile banking or online was a big challenge in all the banks, I believe, Amjad. But the pandemic, people had to adapt to that change.
Yeah. Like Mr. Amjad said, there were some positivity.
And for us also it was good because we then had to challenge ourselves what else we can add to the services which will be contactless. So the recent what we added in NBO was you can actually open a full account, even if a new customer to the bank through mobile banking. You don't need to come physically to open the account. So we have reached that level that even customers don't have to come to the bank to open the account. He can do it through mobile banking and onboard himself and go and collect a card from a machine. No need to interact with anybody. So it's seamless from A to Z.
I was just going to ask you this question that I know as a banking sector, digital presence is very essential. Like you try to reduce the footfall to the bank even before COVID so that people have knowledge to use online banking and the machines around. But do you think at any point that COVID actually put more pressure on the banking sector to come out with new ways of helping out people not to come to the bank at all whatsoever?
Yes, we are trying to minimize, not because we don't want the people to come to the bank. We enjoy seeing people and servicing them. That's what we are there. And I think one of the things which made us stay late night and have sleepless nights and all this stuff is because we are there to service them, and we want to ensure that beside the brand image and the reputation, it's in us. We want to service the people. We want to keep them happy because we are in the same country. We are under the same roof. We are family. So what hurts you will hurt me. I can be in your position and have somebody not giving me the service or not providing the solution would make my life difficult. So our aim was to make the people's life easy as much as you can. And technology and digital onboarding and expanding the services and the offering of the platform, I think it helped a lot. It helped a lot, yes.
Right. Mr. Amjad, do you think that COVID-19 put a pressure on the digitalization of the banking sector?
I would say that digitization or digitalization have started way before the pandemic. The pandemic might have forced a lot of countries or banks to speed that process up to be, to be up to speed with what's happening in the world. In Oman, we all had, before the pandemic, strong platforms. I'll talk about Bank Muscat, as I shared some numbers with you. I believe if I'm not mistaken, we are the most popular app in Oman and the mostly used in numbers. I don't mean popularity. I mean in numbers. Oman Bank Muscat's app is probably the most used app, Omani app in Oman. And yes, the pandemic helped people adopting these new habits of banking, and it encouraged the banks to get up to speed with what's happening in the world. And be more innovative. So like Ali explained, whatever services they are providing now, whatever we are providing, There is also a part that is not only the banks, there is the regulatory frameworks and the regulatory changes that had happened or are supposed to, will happen soon in terms of onboarding, in terms of KYC, in terms of, the physical KYC versus the digital onboarding light KYC. The technologies of face recognition while onboarding and all of that. So the banks had to speed up and be there up to speed. The regulators had to adapt and are still working on allowing a few things to happen. The customers adapted to the new way of banking. The merchants who resisted digital payment at some point of time started, looking for it. Ministries in Oman also, if you would seen the latest last year in June, when Ministry of Commerce along with Central Bank started mandating having digital payment forms for a lot of the businesses in Oman. And it's a journey that was, I would say, pre-pandemic started slow. We realized how important it is to be fast in that race or digitization race. During the pandemic, we all rolled up our sleeves and started running fast. As the pandemic is slowing down, I see that we are not slowing down. We're still running as fast and maybe still picking up pace.
Right. As you said that COVID has its own pros and cons. So I think there are pros that actually help people to take that leap of faith that they were reluctant before,
I agree.
COVID was kind of slowing them down and they were too hesitant that should we go for that strategy or should we try this new thing. But I think with COVID, things started looking up and people started thinking out of the box to make things work faster. And as you said, Mr. Amjad, that the ministry actually last year, from this year, it actually came in effect, cashless payments at all the outlets in Oman.
Yes.
So they are trying to, incur that how important it is for the digital banking or things to work on. Now, when we're talking about banking sector, I know there is always profitability when it comes to banking sector. How was it pre and post COVID?
Well, if I look at the numbers of the numbers are published, there is no secrets here. So 2020, banks had to take, like Ali explained, banks' customers were under a lot of stress. We didn't know how long this pandemic is going to take, how long these deferments are going to happen. There were no new businesses. People, like Ali said, were under stress, saving, every last penny, not spending, companies not operating, so therefore not borrowing. It was a tough year. The banks had to take huge provisions in anticipation of worst case scenario that is going to happen. So 2020 was a tough year in terms of impact on profitability. That last line you see on the balance sheet, that's the most important one. But as things unraveled a little bit, people starting to get used to it throughout 2020, 2021 turned out to be a better year comparing to 2020.
Right.
And I think all the banks in Oman reported good profitabilities during the year 2021. And as we are now approaching the end of the first quarter of 2022, things are going in that same direction of 2021, alhamdulillah. And we can see that maybe the pandemic situation is also slowly unraveling.
True.
It is still tough. It is still tough. People are still recovering from the impact, although if we can say we reached to the point where we say the pandemic is over, but the impact that it had throughout 2 years on businesses especially, or on people who lost their jobs, are still there. And therefore the banking community, and I'll talk about particularly again Bank Muscat here, we proactively started contacting customers, whether that is retail, corporate, small and medium enterprises, who were impacted and who had these long deferments or deferrals. We proactively started contacting each and everyone and say, how does it look like? How do you want us to start? Do you want to reschedule your loan? How much you can pay? And let's come to a point where we can restart this journey again and put your life and put our both lives to ease by rescheduling the loans, by either doing prepayments or different solutions.
Right, right. Mr. Ali, how was it at NBO when we are talking about profitability?
I think NBO is, along with all the banks, of course, the numbers were impacted because we had to take provisions, for the corporates and SMEs who are under stress as well. We had to reschedule most of the loans, and when you reschedule, you end up, hitting your profit and loss a little bit with provisions.
Right.
Central bank was very helpful in easing some of the regulation at that point of time, and that helped a lot. But yes, because as I said, the growth was very difficult. Actually, we had to inject money to enhance our digital channels as well, and provide services, and the cost we couldn't reduce because the fixed cost of the salaries and the operations and the premises and all this stuff are,
Right.
regardless you are not working, you're working,
Yes.
the meter is running. So it had impacted the banks overall, and I think but as Amjad said, that 2021 had shown that we are on the way to recovery.
Okay.
And the numbers of 2021 were way much better than 2020, definitely. Because while the things are coming back and the life is coming back, the people are moving around, socializing and meeting and spending. The cycle of the economy is turning.
Yeah,
It's
people have
moving.
started to this new
Yes,
norm, which
exactly,
is like
so-
people are getting vaccinated, people are adhering to the precautionary measures. So I think that everything is really helping out all the sectors
Yes.
in the
And
south.
people go out and spend money. When you spend
Yes.
money, the companies will make money. The companies will be able to pay the loans, and so things are on the way. If I see in the right way.
Yes,
Right,
inshallah.
inshallah.
Now, talking about the job creation in banking sector, do you both still feel, or do you both see that job creation is still a challenge? Is it tough to get people to work in the banking sector, Mr. Ali?
Well, banking sector has always been there to create jobs, and I think we always need talented people. No matter if you are in pandemic or we were in good times or bad times, we need talented people. Always will have a place in the banks to work. It might have slowed a little bit during the pandemic because we didn't know where are we going, and we already have enough force to do the minimal job required because the transaction volume has gone down. Everybody has gone, most of the people have gone digital, so footfall is low. But I believe, at least from what I know from NBO, that we are recruiting people. We are recruiting people, and especially with people with talent, they always will always have a job to find in the banking sector.
Mr. Amjad, would you like to add?
It's the same story here as well. So, banking in Oman is one of the most appealing segments for talent to work at, and banks in Oman or around the world, and I would say Bank Muscat particularly here, we are hungry for good talent, whether it's pandemic, pre-pandemic, or post-pandemic. The opportunities have always been there. I remember during the pandemic, I used to do a lot of online interviews, and that was weird at the beginning, but then we got used to it. So now even just a few days ago, I was having some online interviews with new candidates. So during maybe, as Ali said, 2020, 2021, the number of new recruits have gone down, but never stopped. Yet, as we are embarking on the second quarter of 2022, I'm sure the numbers are increasing and the opportunities are there in Bank Muscat or in the general banking community. And talent is always something that we are looking for.
Right. I don't want to take much of your time. You both have been very kind enough to, have this fruitful conversation with me. But last, I really want to ask, I know you have been saying things are looking up, but how is the 2020 looking like as a future of the banking sector?
Well, from where we have been the last 2 years, I think we are positive. At least I am positive from my side on the banking sector in Oman. Beside the digital onboarding and digital enhancing, I think overall we see some good signs of recovery in the economy, which will impact positively on the banking sector for sure, especially with the oil price going at more than $100 and the deficit is reducing of the government. I think banking sector is on the way to recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Amjad, your thoughts on the future of banking sector, considering the pandemic is here to stay for a while?
I think things are already started unraveling. We are seeing growth everywhere now. A number of people, a number of transactions and cash flows. People are more relaxed now. They're more confident to go out. That's generally. In Bank Muscat, in fact, this is the year we started our new midterm strategic plan of 2022 to 2024. There has been a lot of changes in the bank and the structure and the management team. People have been shuffled around. I was one of them. New roles, new responsibilities are there, and new challenges on a personal level basis. I mean, not talking about me, just every individual in the bank has new challenges now. And I think as a bank, we are looking at things positively. We are optimistic about how things are going to happen in this year. And inshallah, will be a fine year. And at the end of the year, we can sit back again and look at it.
And not just for the banking sector, but hopefully for all the sectors, not just in the Sultan, but around the world, I think. Yes. Now things have to start looking up everywhere,
Inshallah.
I believe.
Inshallah.
But thank you so much. On that note, I would like to thank you both once again for taking out time and joining us right before Ramadan starting next week. So in advance, wishing you both a very happy Ramadan.
Thank you very much.
And thank you once again for joining us and being a part of this show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Madiha.
For more interesting videos and updates, stay tuned and keep watching TTV.